Hey everyone, welcome to your Wednesday update. My name is Nathan. I'm one of your ministers. It is we've had one full week of Lent. And since we're spending a lot of time talking about death, actually we had a death cafe. That's our whole Lenten theme to kind of just get you a little prepared. We had this program we're calling the Death Cafe that we offered. Last week was the first session. We had 40 people show up. So it's at least tapped into something. Actually, maybe closer to 50, but that's not what we're here today for. Today, I want to talk to you about the logistics of death. Hooray! Logistics of death. The things for you to know. Most deaths are not unexpected. Wait. Before we get into that, real quickly, this Sunday is our annual blues service. I think it'd be great if you came to that. And then we're gonna head into March. There's gonna be some kind of fun fundraisers coming up. But those are kind of your things to mark. So anyway, there are only a handful of sudden deaths. We tend to spend a lot of our energy as a culture on these sudden deaths, but accident, suicide, homicide, cardiac, and stroke. I believe those are the 5. But most other deaths are planned in some way. So you may get a diagnosis where you have a few weeks or a few months, or you may be put in hospice or, something. So most deaths actually have the opportunity to talk to your loved ones, to sort of tie up loose ends, to be a little more at peace, to do kind of some of the work you need to do. Also, it gives people who are grieving time to grieve you, both to tell you things they wanted to tell you or resolve things they wanted to resolve, or come to peace with your death. Sudden deaths, you do all of that work after it happens. And so we tend to assume that's the only real kind of death, that or old age, but it's just not. So when you find out you are in hospice, when you enroll in hospice, call us. Call one of the ministers. Let us know. Let us help you get through. Actually, before that, now, go ahead and fill out, talk to your family about what you want to happen before you die and after you die. So do you want, if you are likely terminal, do you want CPR if your heart stops? Do you want to have a feeding tube? Do you want to, have extreme measures put in to keep you alive? If it'll only buy you a few weeks or your quality of life will be lower, that. So have those conversations now, and then tell your family whether you want to be an organ donor, whether you want to donate your body to science, or whether you want to be buried or cremated and then buried, or you want them to decide. And you can pick out a funeral home now. Most of them are owned by a national chain, by the way, so be a little careful when you do. But anyway. So let us know when you get a diagnosis or you're in hospice, or if you experience someone in your family or friend having a sudden death, call us right away. We will be there if it logistically works out. We will be there with the after the death. We can be there when the funeral home comes to collect the body. You can call us before you call the funeral home if you'd like, and we can help you go through it. You have to go to the funeral home, you pick one and they pick up the body, and about a day or so later, you go to the funeral home to kind of do your initial meeting. And they will ask you a bunch of questions, person's name, probably their social security number, where they were born, and they will enter it into the death certificate. That is the official document that they will send to the coroner, who will officially issue you a death certificate. But they'll ask the information. Then they'll give you a bill that lists out all of the charges. I've seen cremations go for as little as $1,500. On average, I would say $3,000 is about what cremations go for. But more recently, I've heard some of especially the national brands, trying to charge up to $5,000. You have a right to go line by line through every line and figure out what they're trying to charge you for and why, and whether that's reasonable to pay. Think of this like you're negotiating a car, except you're really, really, really grief-stricken. you don't have to pay everything the funeral home says you have to pay. Then after you fill that out, and they may offer to help you publish the obituary. Usually they're not making any money off of that. I think that it goes in the paper, and the paper charges, I don't remember what it is. It's some amount per line. So like it's pretty costly. And I see the obituary as sort of archival documents, like all the stuff that you would want someone who's a great, great, great grandchild to find. You don't have to do the obituary right away. You can write your own obituary if you want. They will also ask you how many death certificates you want. You want to get a lot of those. You need those for a bunch of weird things you wouldn't expect, like to cancel insurance or to prove to the IRS or just weird places. And it's better to have them. Like it's not like a marriage certificate where you need just one. Like you need one for each sort of organization. So 10 to 15 is not unreasonable to get. And then you don't have to go back to the funeral home and get more and deal with all that headache. You've just got them. Often I've seen funeral homes bring you into a separate sales room where they have caskets and urns and all of this. In Louisiana, if you are burying someone, wow, this is 6 minutes. Yeah, I hope y'all are okay. You need to have a case that's put in the ground first, which is cement, and then the coffin goes into the case. You can. I found one place in Louisiana that'll do green burials, which is to bury you directly in the ground. You also don't need to have to be embalmed. That's basically using a bunch of chemicals and to preserve the body, and you don't need that necessarily. That's my cat. She knows what we're talking about, I guess. What else? If you are cremated, there is a basic urn container that they will put your remains in. You can pay more for a nicer one, but in my experience, the original one is fine. And it's also, there's a lot more than you would think. So I've seen people, buy their own, and there's just not a lot of, it needed to be bigger. So my goal usually is to get a family in and out of the funeral home as quickly as possible. There is no... Once you've gone through the logistics, everything else can wait. You want to get out of the funeral home quick because I've seen them sell like guest books for $75. I mean, they upcharge on a lot of stuff, and especially the national brands. They figured out like we'll give you the package. It's like $89.93 or something. But if you just want the base level, it's like $8,500. Why would you want the base level when you could get this $89.93? And you also get like food and like they'll make a thumbprint out of your loved one or a canvas and all kinds of stuff. So the goal is to get in and out of the funeral home. My goal for you is to get in and out of the funeral home, purchasing as little as possible. You can always go back and get the stuff later. When you experience a death, there's a lot of grief, and your brain thinks that there is a crisis, and because your heart is beating faster, you're breathing more shallowly, your brain is rushing, and so it's looking for something to do, and there's just nothing to do. Is to just wait. So having a funeral right away, often people will want to do it because they feel like they're supposed to, but also they feel like it's going to stop the grief, and it usually doesn't. You're going to be grieving for a while. So I sort of think of it like a canvas is draped on you, and each event you do after a death is like a tent pole to kind of lift the grief over you. And if you do all of them at once, then you kind of use up a lot of those for later. So what I usually recommend is to just slow down. Go to the funeral home, do the business, get out, and then make decisions. Find a date that works for you and your family. If you want to do a burial, find a date that works for a burial. If you want to wait, you can wait a year or two to do a service if you really need to, or you can do a service and do a scattering later. People get upset if you wait for a long time to do the obituary, but you can wait for a while to do the obituary. It's okay. The church will, of course, host a memorial service for your family. We'll meet with you, talk about what you would like in it, talk about music, talk about readings, talk about photos. I have found often the most effective memorials are a few months out. So people can get there, they can plan what they want to say. They're not doing the service in a state of crisis, but they're a little more grounded than you might be right after a sudden death, or right after any death. So that's usually what I recommend. It's also it's a little easier on family too, who have to travel. And in that service, we will do our best to tell the story of the person who died. We're never going to be perfect at it. And there's always going to be components of who this person was that we just can't fit in an hour. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is to just give the person a chance to shine. Some people have saved ashes for an anniversary or for 2 years out or 5 years out. Some have waited widows have waited until they died to have their ashes scattered together. Any of those are okay. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot of death. Call on your church, because we do this all the time, and we don't do it for profit. Like, we do it to help you get through this. So I guess that's obvious, but it's part of what the church is here for. So always, always, always call on us, both when it happens and before. If you have questions or thoughts or worries or spiritual matters, call us, because we're here to talk to you about it. All right. That's 12 minutes of death. That's enough for today. See you on Sunday. We're going to do blues. We're going to talk about the gifts of death. I'm going to talk a little about legacy, like not necessarily from the financial standpoint, but from the legacy you're leaving on this earth. Yeah. We'll see you in church on Sunday. Bye, y'all.